Welcome back to It's All by Design. I'm interior designer Jason Morse, and as you can see behind me, things are really starting to move along over the last couple months. I'm really excited to share with you some of the details that we've been adding to the house to really set it apart from kind of your traditional construction and really personalize it for ourselves. So come on, let's go in. Last time you joined us, we actually were just at the framing stage. Now we actually have drywall, we have first coat of paint in, so it really is starting to get the idea of how the finished house is going to look. What I wanted to point out today is a lot of the little things that we thought of to really set it apart, make it a little different, and also just customize it for us. So one of the things that was necessary was a support post here right in the entry. Now, in most homes that you would see that are normal construction would just have a drywall post here with a little bit of trim at the top and bottom. We wanted to bring in a little more accent of the wood that you'll see going through the rest of the house as we talked about it today. So we've actually wrapped this in pine, and this is going to be stained out to give us a little bit more of a presence when you come in. So might as well take advantage of it since it's going to be there and make it something a little more decorative. One of the other things we wanted to do were some of our accent walls. And this wall here is the foyer wall. You'll see they've already applied the molding. Now this is all going to get painted out the same as the wall. So really it's more about texture. It's not really about the lines or the detail that'll be busy or distracting. I added this to the foyer wall just to define the space. Because as you can see, the foyer is very open to the dining space as well as the great room area. So this just gives it a little bit of its own character and style. And we decided to carry that same idea over to this stairwell. So we have this large opening that goes to the second part of the house. Stairwell we kept open, and it's going to go down to our basement area, which has our game room and my office. And instead of just leaving this like you would normally see, just plain drywall, we wanted to bring in a little bit more character. And what's nice about using this board and batten, it's an inexpensive way to add that texture and really just give you some detail going all the way from this higher level down to even the lower level of the basement and continuing that line. Again, this will all be painted out the same as the wall, so it's really more about just giving you a little bit of interest and not really keeping it too busy. And the nice thing is this wall is going to tie in very easily with this when you're standing back from the kitchen area of the home. One of the crown jewels, I think, of our entire project is this great room ceiling. I'm really excited that we decided to go with the coffer in here. We're adding the pine tongue and groove, which is going to be stained a really pretty warm walnut tone. And then we kept the beams and all of the trim in the white. That way we can tie back into the rest of the trim in the room. I thought it was really important in such a large open space to define each area a little bit. We're keeping the perimeter very light with the grays and the creams and the whites, but I wanted to have something that really gave us warmth up above in this space. In open concept, a lot of times you'll see it just sort of flows into one another, which is great, and we want to have that continuity, but you also want to have a definition and really cozy a certain area. One thing that I thought was important was to carry this feeling out to our exterior spaces as well. So we did the front porch in the same tongue and groove, which will be stained to match. So coming up into the house, you'll get that first touch of it. Then as you come into the great room area, you get that second nod. And then of course out here through these windows, this is going to be our screened-in porch. What's cool about this is we really want this to feel as an extension of the living area. So we're doing a lot of the details that will copy the great room directly out this area. So you'll see the ceilings haven't been installed yet, but that will also be the tongue and groove, which will be stained to match. So very easy flow from outside to inside. And then our fireplaces, which we have one that is not done yet out there, will be the same brick that we're using on the inside. So we use this really pretty white Winter Haven brick, and that's going to give us that really light texture. It's definitely a softer feel, a little bit more coastal almost. but we'll have the two fireplaces really visible from both spaces, and I think that's really going to tie it together quite nicely and definitely make it feel like it's all one space that continues. I know a lot of times in design, it's fun to start going into these very exterior looking things with palm trees and fronds, but you need to think if it's going to be an extension or this open to a living space, that it really does feel like the same space. So even the design elements we're putting out there are very much like the interior elements, just in a more sustainable material. Anyone who has ever done a renovation or a build knows that the kitchen is definitely one of the more complicated spaces to both plan and purchase for. The installation has begun on the kitchen, so we have some of the cabinets in, not quite everything, but enough to kind of show you what we're doing in this space. And there's a lot of great stuff because I really thought through how we use the kitchen. How do we entertain in it? Generally, in our last home, we had everybody sit at the island when they came. And it was never big enough for everyone to sit around. So we went with a much larger island in this house. This is actually a 10-foot wide island, which will comfortably seat 4 seats on this side. But we added something a little different on the back side. The back side, we decided to do another opening where we could do an additional 2 stools that would easily slide all the way under, so they're out of the way of the kitchen, but they can pop out and another great place to sit. Now, for me personally, I like to watch TV while I eat, and directly across from me will be the TV mounted in the great room. So we'll be able to sit here and watch that while we eat. No more eating in the living room. That's not allowed in this house. But more importantly, let's talk about some of the other details that we did that really balance the design of this kitchen. One thing is these drawer bases. Normally, base cabinets are the go-to for the standard bottom of the kitchen. But what we wanted was something that was actually functional. So these deep drawers are great for all of our pots and pans and bakeware. So we have 2 of those. There'll actually be 2 drawer bases here. One is not in yet. And then we have one to the other side of the range. This one's actually going to be great for all of our dishes. And so that's going to be dishes, daily wear, all of that. Top drawer, we have custom dividers made for all of our daily utensils, silverware in both areas. We also made sure that we added pullouts. This is great for all of our cooking utensils. So divided there. Any type of like mandolins, things like that can be stored in this bottom section as well. And it's all very convenient to where the range is going to sit here. Now on this wall, you see that we did the upper cabinets flanking the range, and we did those in a contrast. It was important to me to keep this area still feeling very light, so we loved the richness of these navy base cabinets, and we're actually doing a charcoal leathered granite that's going to be over this. It'll be a little bit darker, but the upper part I wanted to keep very light. So we did this, we added the glass up there. That'll be seated glass that'll be lit, which will be perfect for display since it's a little tall for everyday use. But we have some really great vintage pieces that we want to show off in those cabinets up there. Then, to keep that light mood, we actually found this beautiful tumbled antique look tile, which has a glaze that is antique, so you get some dull and some shiny on this. And this is going to be in a brick stack. Now the idea is we actually mimic the brick that's on the fireplace across from us, repeating that design element on this main wall. Now we have this beautiful accent tile that we chose, and we're going to do a backsplash area that will be just above the range hood, which will encompass the pop filler, which we're adding in this area as well. We have a large wooden vent hood that we're installing over here. That'll be in this great walnut tone. And that will kind of tie all of this together, still giving us that richness and warmth and pulling in the ceiling tones from the great room, but just in a smaller dose. And then over here, we're adding open shelving on either side of the window, which will be a great display space for some of our vintage finds and some really great pieces that are kind of treasures to us from family that have been passed down. And there'll be a great farmhouse sink here as well. And then above, you see we already wired for some really great gooseneck barn lights. This will just give us another element in here of lighting and a little extra detail to kind of finish it out. Then on our last wall here, we actually have the double oven cabinet. We're doing another base cabinet with drawers for just easy storage of like Tupperware, things like that. And then the top section will actually hold all of our coffee and tea, because next here, we're doing a beverage fridge and creating this as sort of a bar space. So this will be great for everyday coffee, for tea, for any time we're entertaining. This can be kind of the drink setup. And that'll be next to our refrigerator, which of course will contain all of the ice. And that's going to be built out all the way to the ceiling on both sides, really taking advantage of it. And to mimic the lighting from the other side of the kitchen, we're doing another gooseneck on this side as well. Altogether, I think the kitchen is a really good balance of giving you that rich dark color, the elements of the wood that tie in the rest of the space, and still keep a very light feel, but most importantly, it's functional for us. When planning the master bedroom for this house, we wanted to make sure that we took advantage of, first of all, this gorgeous view and lots of light, and taking this whole wall of large windows and making that the focal point of the room. But we wanted to make sure that the space itself had some interest and warmth and just something a little different from the other bedrooms, because it is our bedroom. And one of the things we decided to add in here was an accent wall that we did out of the 1x4s. A little different from the entry where we did just a simple board and batten design. We actually decided to add this high crossboard. And this is set high because the headboard of the bed is going to be quite a bit taller. It's going to be about 55 to 60 inches tall. So it would end up about here. And we want to be able to see that break. Now this again will all be painted out the same color as the background, which is an accent. We use this beautiful Sherwin-Williams storm cloud as our accent for here to give it a little bit of depth, while the rest of the room stays the same tone as the rest of the house, which is that light French gray. That way it just balanced it from being too dark or too heavy, but still introducing some richness and a little bit of depth, really, for this space. One of the other things that actually turned out to be an afterthought was the ceiling. We originally had planned for up here to do a simple tray, and then we were going to wrap the two beams in some pine and then stain it out. We had a little bit of extra TNG to actually install in this, and decided this would be a really great way to carry over the feeling from the great room and the adjacent back porch and tie it back to the bedroom. So this will all get stained out as well in that same beautiful walnut tone, which will give us that warmth up above. But I think overall this is going to be a really fantastic room of warmth and texture. And that was really the idea. We're not doing any large patterns or anything in here. It's just really more about texture and being cozy and just comforting, a place you really want to rest at the end of the day. Master bathrooms can always be a little daunting. When you have this large shower space that you're trying to fill with tile, and what do you do that's not been done? Now, I'm not saying that what we did was completely unique, but I will say, I think we did a fantastic job of sourcing some amazing tile that was a little bit different and just bringing it into a different design and idea. What we did with this, we found this beautiful herringbone tile, and it was actually designed this way. There was a couple different ways it could be installed, but I loved doing this herringbone pattern. And as you can see, our tile installer did an amazing job of making sure that we had those beautiful dead center lines. And then also importantly, wrapping these corners with the same cut piece. So all of that lines up, and then also bringing you to another beautifully centered point on your sidewalls. I love this idea, and really too, taking it to the ceiling to really add drama and a really finished feel instead of stopping where there would be drywall that you might see in some normal construction. The niche here is something that was really a great touch too. We intended when we did this build to make sure this was deep enough to really hold things. I think a lot of times you find that in the soap niches it's about 3 inches or less by the time the tile goes in, and bottles are constantly falling off of this. So we had this wall actually framed in a 2x6 construction, and that gave us a really nice deep soap niche. Then we added this beautiful contrast marble tile that has this small sort of charcoal square, which tied in the charcoal tile we used elsewhere. You'll see down here, we actually used a small version of the hexagon in the shower floor as opposed to the standard square shower floor tile. Wanted to do something that was just a little more unique, and that also tied in the main flooring that we used in both of the bathrooms, which is this wonderful hex in that charcoal gray. Then we found the complementing tile of this was a large slab style porcelain tile that we were able to do one piece for the seat and the front, and the tile installer then was able to cut these into smaller pieces and finish it all out to give us a nice flow. What's great about this is from the floor all the way up to the seat, it's one continuous tone. Your eye isn't traveling too much, it's not getting broken up, and then you're able to really take advantage of the beautiful wall tile and the direction that it shows there. Of course, we'll have a frameless door that will be added here shortly, and with that we're going with an 8-foot. That way it's going to match all of our interior doors as opposed to going with a standard off-the-rack 6-foot door. It gives us a little bit more height and really finishes off the space and balances the height that we did with the tile going to the ceiling in this space. Lastly, when you're talking about details, we definitely cannot leave off the exterior of the house and the great elements that we've used to create the look that we have here. The architecture itself is a California coastal feel. So it's very clean lined, very simple, and we decided we wanted to warm that up just a little bit more by the use of wood and some other elements. We used that beautiful Winter Haven whitewash brick that you saw on the inside in our fireplaces as the exterior element. And then we used the board and batten siding as opposed to a traditional horizontal. And that's going to be in a linen color that just keeps everything really soft. Instead of keeping it too light, we did bring in some of those elements of black. So we kept the black windows, we added the black gutters, which actually gives a great outline to the exterior and ties in with the black roofing material that we used above. But my favorite element of all is definitely the use of the wood. So we have these beautiful cedar headers that have been added around the whole porch area. That's going to be stained just a little bit warmer to keep it sealed and also give us a little bit of a stronger contrast against the lighter brick. And then we're using that beautiful tongue and groove pine on the ceiling, and that's going to tie in back with the great room area and the porches and the master bedroom, really bringing it all back around. So it's a full experience from the front steps all the way through the house. And those elements really just make the home feel a little bit warmer and way more inviting, but definitely gives you that cohesive feel from start to finish. So you know what to expect when you look at the exterior, and then you go in and it just keeps bringing you back around to that wonderful California coastal feel. Thank you so much for taking this journey with us. I can't wait to show you more once we have some flooring in and a few other elements that are finishing up in the inside. It's definitely been a very long process, and it's coming to a close very soon. So stay tuned, can't wait to show you the finish.